Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Thursday's study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, how to apply yoga philosophy to our lives. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. I got a lot of feedback on the show. Like, you guys were so nice to each other yesterday. I was like, oh.
Really?
I always take the
What
negative.
happens?
Like, we're usually not that nice.
Yeah, what are you trying to say?
Oh, man. Do you know who Dax Shepard is?
No idea. Dax? That's the name?
Dax. AJ Sullivan sent me a picture of him wearing a shelter shirt.
Okay.
Anyway, I thought that was, I don't know. I think he's famous.
Oh, I see. It's a famous person.
3 million followers, and he's wearing a shelter shirt. I thought that was cool. Okay. Who is he? Mara's looking him up right now.
An American actor, comedian, writer, director, and podcast host.
Okay.
Let's get on his podcast. Hey, you know that shirt yet you like? That's me.
All right.
Oh, Krishna.
Where are we going this morning, Robbie? Let's
Where are we
start
going?
moving forward. Yeah.
Let's move forward. Well, you got a nugget, sir?
I don't have a nugget, but you know what I thought? I thought we ended yesterday by speaking about this very unique creature.
How did we get on that creature? The
You
shoebill
were talking about
stork?
ostriches. Yeah, shoebill stork.
Oh, yeah. I just brought up the fact that there's another crazy bird out there. Forget ostriches.
Yeah, and so the shoebill stork, I'd imagine a lot of our listeners,
So many people sent me photos.
Yeah.
Animated
films.
photos, GIFs, memes, shoebill storks yesterday.
Yeah, so it is, and when we were speaking about the shoebill stork yesterday, we were very, in an animated way, speaking about how bizarre this thing looks, right? And creepy, right?
Oh, wait. This just in.
Yeah.
Aaron Erskine is saying, my 4-year-old was so happy you spoke about the shoebill stork. He said you should check out the spoonbill one, too. Can you look up the spoonbill?
I've seen the spoonbill, and that's definitely an interesting bird, but it doesn't strike fear into the heart the way
the winged squirrel, Jeffrey Ackler says.
I mean, there's so many interesting creatures
Okay.
out there, but
We're not talking
about
about interesting. We're talking about creepy.
creepy, bizarre.
Creepy,
Well, but this is the
bizarre.
point. We were going off on how creepy and bizarre it is, but then I had to think to myself, then I saw one film of the shoebill stork, and someone was like petting it, and it was just becoming like all like soft, just like a sweet little bird,
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, we got to be careful now, right? Because what we're learning from Bhagavatam and from Bhagavad Gita is that the wise souls, they see with equal vision, right? Even though this bird has like such a bizarre appearance, within that bird,
It also kills the runt of the litter. Like
It has some bizarre behavior also. Okay, it has appearance and it also has behavior that are creepy. But within that bird, there's a soul, right? There's an atma that is the same as all. And we've also probably been in that body before. I mean, think about that, Raghunath. Think about walking around in that body. And
eating your child's head.
Yeah, well, when you're stuck in that body,
that's what you do. You're directed.
That's what you do. You're controlled. Like
you got some Gita to support your.
Well, I was thinking of a Gita verse. You could probably think of the one I'm thinking of.
Pandita Samadarshana.
Yeah, Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Shunichai Vasvapake Cha, Pandita Samadarshana. All right. This is a verse from the 5th chapter, 518. I bet little Karuna knows that one. You know that one, Karuna? What did she say?
She just gave us the thumbs up.
Yeah, she knows that one.
She's dressed like a Rajasthani princess today.
I know.
By the way, we're talking about various people because if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we actually have a live crew today. How many do we have people today?
So far?
102. So if you want to join us live, you can. You just got to email Mara over here, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and she'll send you the secret codes to enter into our Zoom group. Because we do this with a live, when I say live, I mean completely not live, studio audience here on Zoom. So please join us because we can look at each other. So go on. You're saying Karuna knows the verse. And I said Karuna, who's 8 years old from Lebanon, is
dressed like a Rajasthani princess.
Dressed like a Rajasthani princess. Okay.
And so
say that verse, enlighten us.
Well, there's this beautiful section of the Gita. Let's say from text 518, or let's say 516 or so, up till about like 526. There's so much in these verses, Raghunath, about the nature of a wise person, of a yogi, of an enlightened person.
Yeah.
And so text 16 says that when one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, right, ignorance is destroyed, then their knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of all misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So at this point, one might ask, well, tell us more about that liberated person, right? How do they see the world? How do they think? Tell me about their vision. And now we're going to hear about their vision. And literally the word for vision is darshana, right? To see. Now we're going to hear about how they see. So this is a often quoted verse, right? Vidya Vinaya Sampane. Vidya means like educated, right? Learned. And Vinaya means like a person with like, Prabhupada translates it here like in the word for word is gentle or gentleness, Vinaya. It means a person that's well behaved, a person whose senses are under control, a person who's gentle, a person who's got kind behavior. So when we say Vidya Vinaya, it's the first line is Vidya Vinaya Sampane. The person, the wise person who is, educated, learned, they've got that competence in terms of knowledge, but they've also got the character, right? They got character and competence. They're Vidya Vinaya. They're learned, but they're also kind and gentle and so on. So Vidya Vinaya Sampane, someone who's equipped like that, how do they see the world? And then it says they see with equal vision all these different beings. It says by virtue of true knowledge, they see with samadarshana, with equal vision, a learned and gentle brahmana. What does that mean?
Someone just like a wise sadhu. So they're saying they see this sadhu, and they're going to compare that sadhu to someone else.
Sadhu is another word that's Sanskrit. So if someone's unfamiliar with both terms,
okay, it's a learned and gentle brahman. It means a wise person.
Yeah, like
who's like a gentleman.
Yeah, a refined person, right? A person who's very refined and has good behavior, right?
Yeah. And
then, they see equally that person, a cow, an elephant, a dog.
Okay, so we have these things that are so different, right? A cow, an elephant, a dog, and a learned brahmin.
And then a dog eater. Now, this is a weird term, right? Like literally, literally svapaka, it means, it's speaking about a person that eats dogs. And so really there's
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, oh,
It's
your
our
dog eaters
morning
out there?
podcast.
You thought the Shoebill Stork was
We
bizarre?
peculiar.
Yeah. So the idea here is it's saying on one hand you have this brahmana, this very refined, cultured person, and on the other end you have this very unrefined person who's a person who's got behavior that's very unrefined, right?
Yeah,
But
people,
some
people are out there eating dogs and bugs.
really? Oh yeah, I guess
Yeah.
people do eat bugs. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's saying that it's talking about spiritual vision. It's not that they don't recognize that, hey, the swan is a very graceful bird and the shoe-billed stork is a bizarre, creepy-looking bird, right? It's not like that this wise person doesn't recognize it. But more important to them is that within that bird is a spark of spiritual energy, the soul, which is of the same nature in both the swan, in both the cow, in both the learned Brahmin, in the dog eater, in the shoebill stork, right?
This is where we find our equality.
That's where the equality is found, right on that level. You got some really great commentaries to this. There's a website, bhagavad-gita.us, right? Bhagavad-gita.us.
Bhagavad-Gita.
Bhagavad-gita.us. And I use this website sometimes because it has the commentaries on all the verses of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
It's got commentaries from Prabhupada's
Oh, it's got other
commentary.
commentaries?
Yeah, it has Prabhupada's commentary, but then it has Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries, Ramanuja's.
That's a great way to study.
Yeah. Oh, it's all there together. Sridhar Swami, Madhvacharya,
Up on the board.
Keshava Kashmiri of the Kumara Sampradaya, and then it's got Adi Shankar's commentary. It's got Abhinavagupta.
Abhinavagupta.
Do you know about Abhinavagupta?
No, I just like saying the name. Abhinavagupta.
Abhinavagupta, I believe, if it's the same one, he wrote these books on really important books on Sanskrit drama that analyze rasa. They analyze all the different emotions and so on, all the different dispositions and emotions, all the different types of love and so on. So that's Abhinavagupta. So any case, it's got all these comments, but let's listen. Let's hear what Sridhar Swami has to say about this. Ready?
Okay,
Of the
yeah.
Rudra Sampradaya. He says, now the question may arise, being what kind of persons are those who achieve moksha or liberation? Because the previous verse said that these people, they go straight towards liberation, right? So tell us more about them. And then this verse spoke to that. He said, Lord Krishna uses the word pandita, or the wise. Who are the wise? Okay, you ready? Who are the wise, Raghu? You ready?
Yeah.
You don't sound too excited about it.
Wait, you're asking? Is this a hot seat?
No.
or
I'm
you're
not
gonna
putting
me?
you on the hot seat. I'm just
Okay.
prepping you for it. I'm just
I'm
teeing
ready.
it up. Okay. He says, those with the inner eye of wisdom who perceive the Brahman, the spiritual energy, or the spiritual substratum pervading all existence in things that appear dissimilar. That's considered a wise person, right?
Ooh, I like that. Say that again.
Okay.
Read that
Those
again.
Who are the wise? Those with the inner eye of wisdom who perceive the Brahman, or spiritual substratum pervading all existence in things that appear dissimilar. The example of a humble, learned Brahmin and an outcast dog-eater shows dissimilarity in conduct. And the examples of the cow and the elephant show dissimilarity in species. But the spiritually awakened sees all with equal vision. Okay,
Very good.
Yeah.
Very lovely.
Now, here you want to hear from Madhvacharya?
Yeah, I want to hear what all these masters say about this verse.
Now, Madhvacharya was on the cover of one of your records, right?
Yes, he was.
Which one?
Perfection of desire.
Perfection and Desire. So this is what Madhva writes. He writes, due to this supraconsciousness, due to this supraconscious awareness, illuminating one's intelligence, Atma Tattva, or realization of the soul, is attained. And once this happens, then one realizes the soul as a manifestation of the Supreme Lord, existing equally in all living beings. This is the purport Lord Krishna is giving in this verse. Now begins the summation. Even though there are external differences in forms among embodied beings, including humans, aquatics, animals, and plants, The Supreme Lord Krishna is ever present in each and every being as a witness, energizing them all as the Supreme Lord, and from whom a minuscule portion comprises the eternal individual soul.
Beautiful.
We got to meditate on this stuff every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, so a real sadhu, like a real wise person, they could look right into the eyes of that Shoebill Stork.
Yeah. Look.
look at that.
Never look in their eyes.
Look right deep into the eyes of the Shoebill Stork, and see, like, with no fear, right? With no fear, and no fear that that thing is going to jump on you, like bite your head off, right? And look into the eyes of that and see. I see within you another person, right? Just like me.
You know, like those animal whisperers.
Yeah, animal. Yeah, they got some feeling in that, right?
There's a famous animal whisperer. Everybody's sending me links to Kevin Richardson, lion whisperer. You know, they're like, they must have some city where they like, you know, there is a city where you can communicate to the animals, and you're not fearful of them. So it must be a whole thing about letting go of all fear, and just be.
I think that has a lot to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, because once there's fear, it puts you in this duality. But once you let go of all fear,
they relate to you differently, right? Like that.
Sure.
The animals relate. They say that the snakes, they don't bother the sadhus, right? You know that?
Yeah, if the sadhus have no fear.
If they have no, well, I mean, if they're a real sadhu, then they have no fear, right?
You know, I was going to quote this verse from the Gita. Speaking of the Shoebill Stork.
Okay.
The living entity, this is from the 15th chapter, another great chapter.
Yeah.
The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. Thus, they quits one kind of body again and quits it to take another. Thus, he takes one kind of body and quits it to take another.
So we're floating like aroma in the air with our karma carried with us, right? With our previous conceptions from one body. Into
well,
the
it's
next
just
body.
like that. Shoebill Stork is completely convinced. Well, I'm just a stork now. I've got to do this. I've got to eat the child's head. You know, he's the runt of the litter.
Nothing wrong with that.
Even though the
he's the runt of the litter.
Even though the little baby's like, my brother rejected me. Please, mother, you take care of me. No, the mother neglects. He's like completely convinced and acting as if helplessly.
Yeah.
Right. They're acting helplessly by instinct.
Thinking it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Thinking it's just, this is what we do. So let me see the next one.
Keep reading. There's some, yeah.
Yeah. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this.
There you go.
So there is this pure spirit soul. We're you know, the whole culture is trying to find equality, and they're going about it the wrong damn way.
It's true.
You know what I mean? It's like, do we have to do everything here on Wisdom of the Sages?
Okay.
They're going about
equality.
it the wrong way. We are
gotta
never
be
going to
respected.
find it. And we think if we can find true equality, then we'll find peace. You're wrong. You cannot find peace unless your mind is peaceful. It's that period. And your mind can't be peaceful unless you know who you are. And we have to absorb our mind in wisdom literature, and we have to meditate on the real thing on a regular basis, because we drift to Maya. People's idea to create more equality is creating more separation. And what do we have in common? We're all spirit souls. We're all drivers of different vehicles. Are the vehicles equal? Not at all. You're definitely smarter than me. Mara's smarter than me. You know, people are better looking than me. It's just like, we're just all, someone's stronger than me. That's just the way it is. We're not the same. Identical twins aren't the same. How do you find it? You're not going to find equality on a material platform, on a physical platform, on a mental platform, on an intellectual platform, or on an emotional platform. Our only equality comes from, hey, we're all spirit souls. Even that disgusting child-eating bird is a pure spirit soul. And I have to treat it with a little bit of dignity, or at least a little bit of respect. But I understand underneath it, it's pure. Now, the store, what is this? What is it called?
Shoebill.
Shoebill. The shoebill is forced by the gunas to act a certain way.
Yeah.
They
Once it's
have
in that
no
body.
control over their body and the mind. They're very little. I've heard also yogis say, like, there's the chakras of these. They can't exercise all the chakras within the body. I don't know.
Within the Shoebill chakras.
Shoot. So, but as humans, we have this ability. We have this ability of free will. You know, you can grow up in a hard situation where your parents were really brutal to you, or you had some trauma and abuse. And then it seems very natural that you go into abusive behavior as an adult. You carry that with you. The problem is that now that you're an adult, you're responsible. You are responsible for your behavior. Whatever happened to you, that happened. Now, what am I going to do with what happened to me? Whatever happened. Now, what am I going to do with that? And this is where our merit, what we do in this world, is going to affect us. So the shoebill is we're not holding that shoebill for any karma for his activities. They're actually going to evolve. But as in the human species, we can go up or we can go down. We can evolve or we can devolve. And we can see, and if you don't believe that, you can just look in the course of a day. Sometimes we'll eat a meal and we'll think, oh, why did I eat that? I wasn't even that hungry. Why did I overeat? So in that meal, I felt I've devolved. And sometimes I had a meal where I feel like, oh no, I was a better choice. I've evolved, right? Sometimes in a conversation with someone, I'll feel like that was it was really great. We met that person yesterday and we had a really deep conversation. I feel better about myself because of it. Or sometimes you just engage in nasty gossip and you feel like, oh man, whenever I get around that person, we just speak ill of other people. And then sometimes it's a chapter in your life. What was I thinking? Why was I with this person? Where was my consciousness? Why would I choose a person like that? And we look at chapters like, I want to do over. I want to do over the last decade. So our whole life is a series of choices. And those choices bring us higher. They raise the bar or they degrade us. And this is the process of reincarnation. If I don't like, say, the way my body is, that means I've made a series of poor choices. And here's another thing. You can change it. You can change it right now. If you don't like the choices you've made emotionally and mentally, physically, guess what? Today's a new day. You can change them. And this is a big part of our philosophy. Who we hang out changes our choices. Who we hang out with helps us either climb higher or sink lower.
Yeah. I think the wise person, they know what they can change and what they can't change, right? What to accept and what to change, right?
I think that's the big question of the universe. What do I accept and what can I change?
And I like your point. It's like, we need to, equality is such an important principle, but we screw it up if we think we can force equality on the material level. We need to recognize it's got to be based on principles of truth. You know, our understanding of equality has to be based on truth. When we try to base it on falsity, it just creates greater inequality, greater conflict, right? So let's respect all life in all its different forms. Let's appreciate. Another point I just thought is worth mentioning is, like, that was such a nice description from Sridhar Swami, where he says, "Who are the wise? Those with the inner eye, right? The inner eye of wisdom, who perceive Brahman or spiritual substratum, who see spirit pervading all existence, even in things that are dissimilar." That's called the inner eye of wisdom, right? Now, the fact is as we go through life, we may have different responsibilities in life where we have to recognize the differences. You know, it's like if a Shoebill Stork is wandering around my child, I better deal with it. You know?
My little infant.
Yeah.
Do not let them in the delivery room. Shoebill Storks.
Yeah, there's other kind of storks can be in the delivery room, but not the Shoebill. That's a Shoebill Stork. Get it out of here. I thought the stork was all right around here.
Wrong
no, not that
stork.
stork.
There's the wrong stork in the
That's the wrong
delivery
stork.
room.
Yeah. So it doesn't in certain dharma, right? Certain responsibilities that we have in life will require us making distinctions and operating on it. But on the inner level, we're always seeing an inequality. And as we elevate, to that deepest, I don't know, elevate deepest, but like as we go deeper and deeper, or as we elevate our consciousness, we actually, the great, the deepest sadhus, those Mahabhagavats, they prefer to operate on this level, right? They prefer to just like see that purity in everyone and everything, and therefore they can walk through the jungle and commune with the lions and the tigers and the snakes and so on.
Sure.
They're because they're seeing on a completely different level.
Yeah. It doesn't mean we should okay, we're all equal. Therefore, in our human species, we throw out all rules governing society out the window. No, there's still rules, and people are breaking rules. Doesn't mean person shouldn't go to jail, even though he's a pure spirit soul. But it brings us back to this point of, is there someone born evil? Right? Or is there an evil seed? Right?
It's so easy to believe that when you see the shoebill, you think, okay, that thing is evil to the core.
Right. They're actually pure. But even when you think of like the notorious villains of the world, the Pol Pots, the Mussolinis, the Stalins, the Maos, the Hitlers, it's like every mother didn't think like, oh, my little baby Adolf, or you know what I mean? They never think they're going to become these tyrants, but they're pure spirit souls who just had bad association, and maybe they had bad association for lifetimes. But maybe it's not just. Yeah.
But it's the mind that's warped. It's not the soul.
It's not. Yes. Right. So that doesn't mean they shouldn't be punished for the crimes if we're trying to create a peaceful society. But we as ourselves, I think this is the big thing here. Okay. How I see them. This is the big thing.
The vision,
how I see them. So there's no hate there, because all you do is you see a person who's trapped by the gunas, and they become helpless.
That's right.
They become helpless. So it's sort of, first of all, when you understand a person's backstory, when you understand that the soul is eternal, when you understand the fact that people have had trauma, doesn't mean they shouldn't be punished for their crimes, but it slackens your hate. Right. And the hate that we have in our heart for someone who's acting inappropriately, that's what's killing us. To the degree that I carry a hate around, I suffer. And when you see someone who's hateful, don't hate them back, or else hate wins.
You ever see like like in India the dogs run wild, right?
Oh, yeah. I've been chased by a pack of wild dogs once in India.
Really?
Yeah. Walking around chanting early in the morning like a sadhu.
And they chased you?
And then they all looked at me.
Oh, on that corner right before you get to the Raghunath temple in Vrindavan on the Parikrama?
You won't know where it is, because I was one of those mornings where I was like, I'm going to explore. So I went down some like alley. It was like, really dark. No one was around, that a pack of dogs started chasing.
I remember, because Raghunath and I used to, when we would stay in Vrindavan, this holy place, Vrindavan, every morning we would do this Parikrama, do this. You walk around the entire area, literally around, right? Like around the circumference.
Parikrama means to like walk around.
Parikrama,
to step around, right?
Step around. So about midway, for some years, right? About midway.
We called them the Midway dogs.
Yeah, there was this dog. There's a vicious dog that would just. You never knew, like, you were always like, okay, now I'm going through this part. That dog would come running out. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
But like, where I saw this was in Udaipur, because like there's a lot of dog activity at nighttime, and they run the streets and they're howling and they're fighting, and in Udaipur I saw like the dog catchers, they have to catch the dogs because sometimes these dogs are rabid,
Yeah.
And the dog catcher, it's not like he hates the dog, right? But he's recognized that this dog is posing a danger, danger to everyone as well as a danger to itself, and so they have to capture that dog and care for it, and so similarly, it's not that we don't necessarily see distinctions on the material level. They can be recognized. There are some great souls that aren't even on that level, right? Like they don't have that responsibility. They don't have to operate. They don't have to come down to that level. Mm-hmm. But when you have responsibility in the world, you recognize the differences. You act, even if it means the rectification, the punishment, of a criminal and so on. But within the heart, right? Within the heart, you're always seeing with that inner eye of wisdom. You're seeing the equality. There's no hatred. There's no animosity. There may be some sadness in having to deal with this,
Right.
but there's no hatred aimed at the person, and that goes to the very end of the spectrum, right? From the saint to the worst sinner, right? To the greatest criminal, to the most warped mind. We recognize it underneath it, that soul, and even within the Shoebill Stork.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna see a lot of crazy stuff out there. Crazy birds out there. We see a lot of crazy people, a lot of crazy birds. But how do I hold those people in my mind? That's going to make me either peaceful or disturbed.
And if you want to be an instrument of peace in the world and you don't get this.
I love this statement. Say it.
Right. Well,
say this again.
If you want to be an instrument of peace in the world, you really need to develop that inner eye of wisdom. You need to begin to see on that spiritual level. You need to begin to respect and appreciate life in all its forms, and recognize that some of us may be more warped, or practically all of us are warped in one way or another, and therefore we're fighting over resources that we don't need to be fighting over. We're identifying enemies who aren't actually enemies. We're causing great. We say this on the this morning. You wake up and the news is out there that the Ukraine is being bombed right now. And war is beginning there. It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking.
And but it's just another example of where we're fighting over resources that we don't need to fight. If we could all see with the spiritual vision and respect one another and simplify our lives, have the spiritual vision that I am spirit, I am happy by nature, I don't need external things to be happy. We can live a simple life and be satisfied and not fight over the resources. But again, if we want to be an instrument of peace, we have to recognize even in the so-called enemy, it's actually a friend underneath it, and let's go into it with that assumption, right, and work towards it. Otherwise, we talk about peace, but actually we just create greater conflict.
Yeah, in the name of peace, I hate.
Yeah, exactly.
Because these people are inappropriate. Yeah. They hate them.
It's justified to hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right.
Well, where are we, sir? We're in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad Bhagavatam. We're starting that new chapter. We did the Adharma family yesterday. Right?
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Kind of like the Addams family or
the Adharma family.
They're a creepy group of people, but within they were also pure souls. Yeah, and now we're going to start to hear the actual story of Dhruva.
I feel so bad for people from Europe who don't understand our 70s television references.
I think they're okay. I think they're
okay with that.
I think they'll get by. Yeah.
Kern is like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Who are the Addams family?
Who is Fester?
They were literally, the song said, right? They're creepy and spooky and all that, right?
It's a show about creepy, funny people. Yeah. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 5. Are you ready?
Maitreya speaking.
Maitreya speaking. My dear Vidura, I have summer. Oh yeah, this is where we
did this one.
Summarily explain the causes of devastation.
Summarily.
One who hears this description of Oh yeah, 3 times attains piety and washes the sinful contamination from his soul.
Okay.
Maitreya continued, the best of the Kuru dynasty. Oh, best of the Kuru dynasty. I shall now describe to you the descendants of Swayambhuva, Manu, who is born of a part of a plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead. Part of a plenary, that's a contradicting term. Plenary means whole, and part of a plenary.
Part of a plenary.
Hi, we're part of a plenary. Okay, let's just continue on. Swayambhuva Manu had 2 sons by his wife, Satarupa.
Okay, now we're getting to the Dhruva story here, right?
And the names, okay. Oh, his wife was Satarupa, and the names of the sons were Uttanapad and Priyavrata.
Okay.
Because both of them were descendants of the plenary expansions of Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, they were very competent to rule the universe, to maintain and protect the citizens. King Uttanapad had 2 queens named Suniti and Suruchi.
Mm-hmm.
Suruchi was much more dear to the king. Suniti, who had a son named Dhruva, was not his favorite. So the king was playing favorites with the wife.
He was. And it's important that there's a comparison being drawn here between these 2 wives as well, Suniti and Suruchi. Actually, literally their names, do you know what the names mean, Raghunath?
Suniti, Suruchi. One means Suruchi. Oh, yeah. Did we just talk about
Su
this?
means?
Suruchi means like very happy. Very.
Su is like an
right?
intensifier, right? It's a prefix that intensifies. So Suruchi means ruchi
Very
means,
happy.
Ruchi,
Like
it
joyous?
can mean like taste, but I think it can also mean like pleasure. So like Suruchi means like great pleasure, let's say. So for the king, Suruchi represented great pleasure. And then Suniti.
Okay.
Niti.
So Niti is like instructions. So
yeah,
very
guidance,
instructional.
Guidance. Yeah.
She
Yeah,
was
like-
one of maybe a little wiser.
Yeah, she gave good guidance. We'll see that. Actually, I think there's 6 or 7 chapters that are dealing with Dhruva, right? The famous story of Dhruva, the most famous part of it is this chapter that we're going to read now. But towards the end, eventually, here's a spoiler alert, but Dhruva's going to return to the spiritual world, right? And he's going to do that by stepping onto an airplane. And then as he's leaving, who does he remember?
Lord Vishnu.
No. He remembers his mother. He's like, I can't.
His mother.
I'm transcending the material realm and moving on to the spiritual realm. But what about my mother? She gave me that great guidance right in the beginning, right? And so she was like a guru to him. So Suruchi is going to her behavior and her actions, it will be kind of shown in comparison to Suniti. We're going to get some really good right off the bat. Suniti is going to just give an instruction for life, that something that we should all apply. But so in any case, he had these 2 queens, and Dhruva's mother was Suniti, who was not so favored by her husband, the king.
Yes.
Text 9.
Okay, ready? Text. Yeah, once upon a time, King Uttanapad was patting the son of Sarichi, Uttama, placing him on his lap. Dhruva Maharaj, right? So one of the favored queen, the son is on his lap. He's like giving him a little, give him a little ride on his lap like dads do. And Dhruva, he was a little boy too. He was also trying to get on the father's lap. So he's like, how about me? How about me? How about me?
Yeah.
About not just my brother, me. He was also trying to get on the king's lap, but the king did not very much welcome him. He was even favored to the children too.
Well, that's because
He wanted to please
Suruchi
the wife.
was there.
Okay. While the child Dhruva Maharaj was trying to get on the lap of his father, Suruchi, the stepmother, became very envious of the child. And with great pride, she began to speak so as to be heard by the king himself. Queen Suruchi told Dhruva Maharaj, my dear child, you do not deserve to sit on the throne or the lap of the king. Surely you are also the son of a king, but because you did not take birth from my womb, you are not qualified to sit on your father's lap.
She's like a
Who would say
Shoebill
that?
Stork would say something
Yes,
like that.
who would say something like that? What?
Yeah, but now you see already, Raghunath, right? We can try to apply what we've been speaking about today. How does a sadhu see Suruchi here, right? Like
She's
recognizing
controlled by,
fear,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I think
desire
especially
her
fear.
desire to control her. She's envious.
Because she thinks, like the day's going to come, the king could die on the battlefield, right? The king could die, the king could, my husband, the king could disappear. Who's going to be the next king? It's got to be my son, right? Because if it's my son, I know that I'm protected. I know that, I know that I'll have the best material circumstances if my son is the king. So she's right now, it's saying that she's saying this to Dhruva, but she's doing it in earshot of the king, because she's sending a message to him as well, right? Like, I'm number one, we're next in the list. Let's be clear about that, right? Let's not leave this vague in any way.
He says, my dear child, you are unaware that you were not born of my womb, but from another woman's. Therefore, you should know that your attempt is doomed to failure. He's telling this to a little kid. You are trying to fulfill a desire, which is impossible to fulfill.
But you know what?
He just wanted to get on the lap of his dad. Come on.
Yeah. But fear does make us act cruel, right? In other words, in her mind, this is entirely justified, right? We're reading it and saying, my God, give us a break. How could you say those things? But in her mind, she's thinking these things need to be said. It's important.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure in her position, her greatest, I don't know, I've never had a co-husband I've never had a co-husband. I can't imagine what that may. There must be some like intrinsic fear of the other co-spouse.
Yep.
Like, who's higher here? Whose child will ascend the throne here? Am I favored? Are you favored? There must be constant, maybe constant.
Well,
they could be great friends.
There's always
or
that,
there could be jealousy.
That's right. And there's always that fear of succession, right? Like, what will happen if things change?
Right. Transition.
You see that all the time in films about kings and so on, right? Like, what happens?
All
next?
those king films I watch, yeah.
So she's acting out of fear. She's concerned about her position. She's making distinctions, based on externals, right? My son, someone else's son. So it's a very materialistic type of thought brought on by fear.
Okay, if you had all desire to rise to the throne of the king, then you have to undergo severe austerities. First of all, you must satisfy the personality of Godhead Narayan, and then, when you are favored by him because of such worship, you shall have to take your next birth from my womb.
No, that's an interesting statement, right?
Like you really want.
It's a religious statement, but there's no spiritual vision invested in it.
Sure.
Right. In other words, she's saying like, God is definitely there, but God favors me, not you, not my co-wife. So if you're ever going to sit on the throne of the king, you're going to have to go to God, right, and take birth through my womb, rather than saying like, hey, God sees everyone equally and sees, and the qualification to play this role should be based on merit, So if you ever want to be the king, you really got to become, qualified for that position. No, the only qualification is to take birth from me. She's religious, but she's not spiritual.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Right. She's religious, but she's got no spiritual vision.
I'm spiritual, but not religious.
She's religious, but not spiritual.
If you all desire to, okay. The sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, as a snake, when struck by a stick, breathes heavily. Dhruva Maharaj, having been struck by the strong words of his stepmother, began to breathe heavily because of his great anger. So he was having a little tantrum, little meltdown. When he saw that his father was silent and did not protest, he immediately, like, how could you not defend me here? Just like the Shoebill Stork baby, runt baby. Yeah. He immediately left the palace and went to his mother. So he's now leaving. He's trying to find shelter in the mother.
This was traumatic, you can imagine, right? This was traumatic.
It's those things that influenced your entire life.
Some scars.
Right? When your father says something to you and it lands so heavy, or your mother or a teacher in school or a kid makes fun of you on the bus and it like changes the trajectory of your life.
Well, that's, in yogic language, it's those words entering through his ears, right? The vision of his father entering through his eyes, not standing up for him, that they filter into the mind through the senses, and then they stay there stored as latent impressions called samskars, right? And certain samskar, the yoga philosophy is that everything that comes through the senses leaves an impression, leaves a latent impression in the subconscious mind, right? And then sometimes like waves in the ocean rise and set. Sometimes these impressions rise to the surface. And like in this case, right, particularly these traumatic ones, they can warp the mind. They can be a source of depression, a source of anger that that stays with us for a lifetime or even longer. And so, in one sense, Dhruva's story, we're going to see where he's at right now, right? I mean, let's cut him a little slack. He's a 5-year-old boy, right? Yeah. You can't expect him to respond.
This is where all those impressions, really make a difference when you're like under 7 years old.
Well, you know why? I was thinking about this a lot even just yesterday. It's because the manas is the part of the mind. It's like a functioning application in the mind, in the computer of the mind. That is it's the interface with the senses. But there's another part of the mind called the buddhi, right, which is the rational end, right? The manas is just functioning like automatically, like unconsciously. But the rational part of the mind, the thinking part of the mind, the discriminatory part of the mind is called the buddhi. And as that impression is coming into the mind, like let's say he turns to his father does nothing, right? That comes into now the manas has an immediate impulsive reaction. I don't like that. But as that impression is going to go and sink into the subconscious mind, the buddhi has an opportunity to shape it, right? To categorize it properly. And when you're just a 5-year-old boy, your buddhi's not well developed. You haven't learned lessons, So that impression goes in there. Like if it happened to an adult, they might be able to categorize it differently before it goes in.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it.
Right?
And to the degree that we play it back again and again, talk it through to ourselves, maybe complain it to another person, after a while, that which could have been taken many ways, it starts to become stone. This is how it is. It solidifies and it changes my thoughts. And these are these deep samskars that they change our choices.
That's right.
As we grow older. I
mean, this is why, for instance, parents don't want their children like seeing violence or sexuality playing out, on television or movies, and we rate them and so on, because the buddhi is not well developed, right? The discriminatory, the rational part of the mind is not developed enough to shape that impression as it goes into the subconscious mind, and therefore it may come when it rises from the subconscious mind. It may rise in warped forms, in destructive forms, right? Problematic forms. And so Dhruva's response here as a child, he's really got no choice, with the equipment that he has in his mind to categorize this well. And he can't just say, okay, my stepmother's acting out of fear. My father's, he loves me, but he's a little weak in this. He's coming up a little weak right now. I'm okay. I'm stable. Nothing's rocking me. No, he's getting rocked by it, severely.
All right, continuing on here. When Dhruva Maharaj reached his mother, his lips were trembling in anger, and he was crying very grievously. Queen Suniti immediately lifted her son onto her lap, while the palace residents who had heard all the harsh words of Surichi related everything in detail.
What a scene, huh?
Thus, Suniti also became greatly aggrieved.
The incident was saying, you should have just seen what happened. Why is he crying like this?
Humiliating. The king humiliated him. The incident was unbearable to Suniti's patience. She began to burn as if in a forest fire, and in her grief, she became just like a burnt leaf and so lamented. As she remembered the words of her co-wife, her bright lotus-like face filled with tears, and thus she spoke.
Now we're Her name is Suniti, right? Which means she's got good guidance. Right now, she's going to say something that's so important. That's even as adults, we know is true. Hopefully we know it's true. But it's so hard to follow for us. But it's really got to become a guiding principle in life for the yogi.
Okay, Suniti, we're ready. She also is breathing heavily, and she did not know the factual remedy for the painful situation. Not finding any remedy, she said to her son, "My dear son, don't wish for anything inauspicious for others. Anyone who inflicts pain upon others suffers himself from that pain." Didn't we just say that? Didn't we just say this about 15 minutes ago?
Did we?
Well, it's the whole idea of however anybody in this world is acting, even if they're acting in a criminal way or a hateful way.
Right.
I have to be responsible for my emotions.
You're right.
I can't let their behavior make me hateful.
Right.
Make me angry, or make me want revenge or spite, or be the person to, I'm going to give them their karma. When I have those feelings of revenge in the heart, or spite, or hoping they're going to fall, like when I'm happy for their demise, that's my problem.
Now you suffer.
Now I'm suffering.
Let's read that again. My dear son.
My dear boy. My dear son. Where are we?
My dear son, don't 17.
17.
Don't,
my dear son, don't wish anything inauspicious for others. That's a big one. That's a tattoo.
not only don't even wish.
Don't wish for them, even if they're being jerks to you.
Yeah.
Don't wish inauspicious for others. Anyone who inflicts pain upon others suffers themselves from that pain.
In other words, even not only just doing, but even by wishing for another to suffer, it brings yourself suffering.
You know, Kaustubha, this is one of those Krishna magic moments where you open a book up and like the one verse there is speaking to you. This verse is for me today.
Oh,
you guys are
too.
just here. You guys are just here. I don't know why you're here, but this, okay. I'm here for this verse today. This is speaking to me.
We need to hear this. And look at this. I think we're out of, maybe we come back and start with this. Yeah, we're out of time.
Mara just pointed to the clock.
Okay, so we'll pick up with this verse. There's so much in this verse. We'll start here tomorrow again.
All right, that's good. Mara, you got any?
What you got, Mara?
Oh no!
Well, you see, I knew as soon as I saw you move that, I said, "Oh, we're."
Move that. I know when she moved that mic.
Okay,
did she
can
move
you hear
it?
me? Yeah, it was my fault. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Wise souls see all living beings equally. We've all been a Shoebill Stork.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
It's crazy to think about. We all have been.
Fear puts us in duality.
Yeah. Let us don't rush them. Okay. Let us imbibe them. Let us drink them up.
Peace doesn't come from equality. It comes from knowledge of what we really are.
Yes.
How would you reword that, Kaustubha?
This is why I don't let you comment on each one.
That's why she goes fast.
Our whole life is a series of choices. We can evolve or devolve.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who we hang out with changes our choices. We can climb higher or sink lower.
Yeah.
A wise person knows what to accept and what to change.
What they can change and what to just accept. Suniti just said. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Equality needs to be based on principles of truth, not a material conception.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let hate win.
Don't let hate win.
Don't
Mug.
You need the inner eye of wisdom to be an instrument of peace in the world.
We're the inner eye of wisdom.
Don't let Shoebills.
Butler, Pennsylvania.
Okay, Butler's your one.
All right. Don't let Shoebills in the delivery room.
Don't. There you go.
Ooh,
never.
Just that's our takeaway today. Because you think, oh, they're sort of cute. I think my newborn baby will think it's quite attractive and cuddly. No, get it out quick.
Get that bird out. Hey, we recognize it's a pure spirit soul within it, but don't let it into the delivery room.
Keep it out.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. If you want to join us live on Zoom, do it. Email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. While you're doing that, you can email her some questions for Q&A day, which is coming up. This Sunday, we have Drew Lawrence. astrology master. If you're excited for a good astrology talk, I'm meeting with him today. I was supposed to meet with him yesterday. I blew that one. We're meeting this morning. We're going to talk about all the interesting things he's going to talk about this morning. So if you have any questions on astrology, write them in. And we'll try to read them to Drew. If you want to join us, if you want to join us in Nepal, no, Nepal is pretty much closed. Italy is open. Who do they write for Italy?
WOTSItaly@gmail.com.
WOTS, Wisdom of the Sages.
WOTS Italy, right?
Italy at gmail.com. So join us for our Tuscany Wisdom of the Sages retreat. We had a great retreat last year, and we met all these Zoomers and others out there. So sweet.
Trap Down Under is going to be there this year, right? Sega is going to be there.
Oh, Trap Down Under, yes. Alice is going to be there, right, Alice?
Oh yeah, Alice got to be there.
Kelly
She'll
Skinner
take us
is
to
going
a
to be
CC.
there.
We'll go to a CC, right? We'll do a day trip.
What else we're going to say?
What? What's the matter, Roger? Your wires got crossed? What's going on here?
It just got cold today. We were really getting in the mood of warm, and it just got cold.
All right.